Let's look at a scenario whereby you want to buy your land, but you don't know the things that you must follow before you buy the land for your project or for your poultry business. Remember guys, land, as we said, that land is one of the major factors of production. Yes. So for us to produce, we need land. But before we purchase land, there are some factors that we must consider before we buy that land, and these are some of the factors that you must look at so that you buy that land. If that land does not meet these factors, I'm going to give you 5 factors that you have to consider before you actually purchase that land that you want to implement your project on. Yes, I know most people, you will need land to start up your poultry business. But consider these factors, guys, because if you don't consider them, that means you will not have good production. You will not operate on profits. You always operate on losses. So they are very, very crucial when it comes to purchasing land. Yes, factor number 1 that you must consider when buying your land for your project. Factor number 1 is what we call topography. Topography. Don't worry, I'm going to explain one by one. That is topography of the land. What does topography means? Topography means the nature of the land. Yes, nature. So what does nature mean? How how is the physical, the physical nature of that land that you really want to buy? We look at the physical nature of that land. Is it really steep? Is it steep? Or is it, on a flat? Is it a flat land? Flat land. So we consider this because most people buy land in hilly areas. Yes, hilly or hilly stroke mountainous areas. Guys, it is very difficult if you want to carry out poultry business. Never buy land which is hilly or which is on a mountainous area. Why? It will not work for you. Why? Because whenever rain comes, that means the land, the roads will be slippery. So it will be very difficult for you. You will reach at a level whereby you need to get water, maybe underground water, for you to dig the well. And it is very difficult for you to get water on a hilly or mountainous area. So we consider that. Make sure that the area is flat where you are going to buy the land. Let it be flat. Do not buy in mountains. Do not buy in hilly areas. For example, in Kisoro, if you go to Kisoro district or Kabale or Bundibujo, all those areas are really steep. Or in Elgon, that Mbale side. If you buy land there for poultry, it will not work for you. Why? Because the area is hilly and steep. So maybe you can start with 500 birds, 100, whatever. But time is coming whereby you will grow. You need your farm to grow. And once your farm grows, that means there are some things that you want to reduce on the cost of production. For example, water. That means you will need to have borehole. So you have to consider all of that. Yes, you have to consider the future. That's why in business plan, we plan all of that. We plan for the growth. Yes, growth. You have to know how you are going to grow when making your business plan. So most people just start without actually growth, without looking at the future, without a roadmap where they are going to follow so that they can reach the destiny that they desire. So it is important to always consider that. So that is factor number 1 you must consider. If you don't consider topography, it's going to be difficult. So guys, please consider subscribing if you are new on this channel. And my daily returning subscribers, I truly, I adore you. And I thank you always for following me. Let's go to another factor that we must consider before we buy land. Factor number 2 that we must consider before we buy the land is distance to raw materials. Distance to raw materials. What do I mean? Distance raw materials. Guys, raw materials is very important. Why? you need to buy all these raw materials that you are going to use on your farm. For example, you need to buy feeds. All these are raw materials. You need to buy feeds. So if the distance is really very far from the supplier or from the raw materials that you are buying, that means all your profits will be going into, you will be incurred into transport costs. So we consider our profits so much. So the distance should not be very far. Your land that you are going to buy should not be very far from the raw materials that you are going to be, buying for your production. It is very important. Another factor that you have to consider, factor number 3, is distance to market. Distance to market. This one is also one of the major challenges. People buy land very far away from people, very far away from the market. That means for you to transport your products or your produce, you need to use a lot of transport. Hence, you will not get profits. All your profits will be going in transporting these products to the final consumer. So we consider that the distance to market should not be very far from your production center or from your land where you are going to practice your business. So point number 4, or factor number 4, that you must consider before buying land is climate. Climate, guys, is very important. Poultry does not need too much sun. Yes, hot weather. These birds will not lay eggs, they will not grow because they will use a lot of strength, flu panting, whatever, because of the stress that they get from the hot weather. So make sure that the land you are buying is not, the weather is not hot. Yes, it is not hot, so it is not favorable for our birds. And also, it should not be too cold at the same time. It has to be medium. That's why we have wet season and warm season. So the climate should be in between. It should be average. It should not be too hot and it should not be too cold for your birds. You have to consider that, because there are people who buy land maybe in those areas which are freezing, very far, maybe in Kasese or those mountainous areas. The weather is always cold, and there are those who buy land maybe in Gulu, the land in Karamoja. All of those areas are really, they are very, very hot. So you have to consider that. Point number 5, or factor number 5 that we have to consider. We have to consider road network. Road network system. Yes, guys, before we buy our land, we should make sure that the land has good road network system. Why? Because if the land does not have good road network system, the system that connects to your land, that means it will be very difficult for you to transport your produce to market. And also it will be very difficult for suppliers to bring in the things that you are going to use for production. Hence, you will use a lot of money for you to produce. Yet in poultry, we try our level best to decrease on the cost of production, because if you fail to, to reduce on the cost of production, that means all your profits are going to, they will be spent in unnecessary things, which you must consider from the beginning. Yes, it is not that everywhere you can start this business. You have to be calculative, be strategical, be tactical. And once you do all of that, that means things are going to be easy for you. Let me see you in my next video. God bless you for today. I'll stop there. See you.